Well, once again, welcome to the Lunch and Learn webinar for warehouse management. I am your presenter today, Christopher McKenzie, one of the pre-sales product technical specialists here at Financials for Office 365. With me today is Rocco Kutri, our senior consultant. Hey, Rocco.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Great. So, today we hope to show you the warehouse functionalities that come within Financials for Office 365, the extra little component there in our Office 365 suite. And we'll be showing you multiple ways to consume the system today. So if you've been to our webinars before, you've seen that we've mainly stayed in the web experience of Financials for Office 365. Today we'll be showing you one of the role centers that your warehouse workers can be using within the web experience, as well as we'll be hopping into the tablet experience as well, giving you that look at that touch and swipe functionality that you could be using in your warehouse to increase your efficiencies. So hopefully today our aim is to show you how powerful the functionality is within the system, as well as showing you how simple it is to use and how it can scale with your business. So our agenda for today is going through a quick summary of the concepts that we'll be discussing and utilizing within the actual warehouse module, then show you some of the real applications within the software itself. Go through specifics such as creating pics, inventory pics, the difference between an inventory and a warehouse activity, and then even go into more details such as using some of the applications such as the zones, bins, as well as locations. Now if you're like me, I've worked in software before, but these concepts are pretty new to me. So I'll be going through actually defining each one of these concepts and giving you an illustration of each one. So, why use warehouse management within Financials for Office 365? Goods are received and before goods are shipped off, a series of internal warehouse activities take place to ensure an effective flow through the warehouse and to organize and maintain the company's inventories, obviously. So the level of detail needed for a warehouse can vary depending on your warehouse's size and practices. So Financials for Office 365 tries to allow you to scale the level of detail you apply to your warehouse's activities so it can grow with your business. That is to say that you can start off as basic as just creating a purchase order and boom, it's in your warehouse. Or you can go as much detail as you'd like. Now, using these efficiencies and these features in your daily warehouse activities will give you a better overview of your inventory and its movement, as well as give you a greater idea of what you're incorporating. So we aim to simplify the way you account for your warehouse activities, empower your warehouse workers by delivering accurate and live information, optimize the physical layouts of your warehouse, as well as allow your warehouse management system to scale with your practices. Let's start off with the concept of a warehouse location. Now, a warehouse location can be organized to be as simplified or as detailed as you'd like your practice to be incorporated within your accounting software. Each location can actually gradually increase with the more activities you incorporate. So what are these activities? Typical warehouse activities include things such as putaways for inventory, moving the inventory within your warehouse itself, and actually picking them up for different practices. Within Financials for Office 365, we have assembly management, production management, as well as sales and transfer orders. So this is going to be a couple of things that we discussed today. You'll also be able to see this a little bit more in detail in the manufacturing webinar next week. So this is just an illustration of what we call a location card. As you can see here, you can tick specifics such as the requirement for receivings, shipments, putaways, and picks to be incorporated, as well as having bins mandatory within your actual warehouse itself. We also have the functionality for ADCs. So what are bins and zones? If you're like me, this is a completely foreign concept and it's quite new. So simply put, bins are buckets where you store your inventory. They can be as large as the shelf, or they can be an entire part of your warehouse itself. This represents the basic structure of your warehouse, and it's used to give a suggestion for the placement of those items. Now, when you create your bins within the system, within financials for Office 365, you can define very specifically the contents that you want to place in each bin. And you also have the functionality to have it as a floating bin without any specified contents. Now, once you have your bins, you can have zones. And zones are established so you can specify specific activities that are happening within your warehouse itself, such as the receiving of inventory, the assembly, the storage. It doesn't have to be any specific amounts, but you can even incorporate requirements within your bins, such as having a specific volume, weights, etc. So, what are our warehouse activities? We have inventory putaways, we have inventory movements, and picks. Now, these are activities such as putting them in specific areas within our warehouse, but they can be as basic as I just want to place it in the warehouse itself. But we also have the warehouse putaways, movements, and picks. So what's the real difference between these two activities? So today we're going to hop into the program and show it to you. So let's have a look. Before we do that though is always to explain a little bit of detail in that, and then hopefully this graph gives you that illustration. So an inventory pick can be sourced from a sales shipment, a transfer order, a production order, just that demand. But within a warehouse pick, we can have that all happening in one activity. So a good way to describe it is trying to increase your efficiency, having your warehouse worker do these activities in one go instead of traveling back and forth and back and forth. Let's have a look at an inventory pick. So this is the warehouse sending and receiving manager role center. If you've been in our webinars in the past, you've seen that we've always been at the administration role center. This one is made specifically to illustrate the workload of your warehouse. Within here, I can see the released sales orders as well as the expected purchase orders. And we even have these colors illustrating the workload that we want to apply to each one of these different activities. So first, let's hop into a sales order that has an inventory pick. So within this sales order to a customer in Western Australia, we can see that we're selling them 45 loudspeakers and 35 Ethernet cables to go with those loudspeakers. What we also have in that location is them specifically set up in different areas. So we're going to see how an inventory pick, while it is only sourced from one sales order, can give you that extra level of detail, if you need it, of course. Let's go to our warehouse tab within our ribbon and have a look at the inventory put away and pick lines. Now, as you can see, we've got one pick document for this. Let's hit card and have a look at this actual document itself. While we have only those two lines for those two documents, look at that. We can see that we have multiple items being grabbed from different bins within the system. So it gives you that extra power functionality to be able to source it from different locations. As you can see here, source document, this pick document, this inventory pick document, is grabbing the loudspeakers from multiple areas. You could even incorporate it to grab batches, as you can see with Ethernet cables here. We've actually applied lot numbers against these Ethernet cables. And as you can see, they've got them coming from two different batches. So Rocco, how does this benefit us to have this much detail in an inventory pick document?
Yes, so basically what you'll be able to understand from looking at this document is that it is a simplified version of a sales order linked to the sales order, but it only really deals with inventory and quantities and bin locations. And additionally, if you're using lot numbers or batch numbers and as well serial numbers, that information can be given to the warehouse worker here. But it cuts out a lot of the other information that is financially based, such as the costs and the prices and things like reservations and those kind of pieces of activity. So we're just streamlining this information for the warehouse worker, but we're also giving them the functions that they need. You'll notice that from the sales order, the quantities are now in this document, they are spread out into multiple lines. And that's because the system here is telling us that to fulfill the quantity on the sales order, we need to go to multiple bins to get this to get these quantities, and/or we need to select from multiple batches or serial numbers. So it's a simplified version of the information, but it's also giving the warehouse worker the ability to do what they need to. The warehouse worker can also choose to adjust the bin. So if the system has told them to go to a bin in the pick face and for some reason that is not available, then they can simply choose another bin from the list, which will be given to them, and adjust that on this document, which will then flow through to the rest of the system. And additionally, this document, this inventory pick, also provides the ability for invoices or shipments to be created in the warehouse. So depending on your practice, the warehouse worker can create just a shipment document and attach that to the goods, or they can create a shipment and an invoice and attach both of those to the goods.
Really has amazing functionality in that aspect. So while we still have one simple process being provided to you, you do have that extra level of detail if you want to utilize it within the system, making your warehouse's practices more efficient, aiming to improve it in that aspect. So this is an inventory pick, and naturally this does work on the other side of the fence. It works on the putaways, exactly the same. So now that we've seen our inventory pick, how about we compare that with the warehouse pick? What we're going to do now is simply move back just by selecting the empty space on our left-hand side. We're going to now hop into my selected picks. It is important to note that you could even have it, as you've seen here, in the role center, that your activities can be allocated to your warehouse workers and the users, making it more efficient so that they know straight away, I've got work to do. So let's hop into one of these warehouse picks. Straight away I'm seeing that I have a workload that needs to be done. I've got multiple items being used here in this pick, just as we had in that warehouse in our inventory pick, sorry. But what you can also see is that our source document is coming from multiple actual items. Now we've got them coming from one sales order here. And we've also got it coming from a second one, and multiple actual items being taken. So within a warehouse pick, what it aims to do is provide us extra detail in what we call the action type, telling us to take in place. So it does guide your warehouse worker along that aspect. Where you can, as we can see here, grab items from multiple bin locations and even grab them from multiple sources. So you can have your worker doing one job instead of having to do it maybe 5 times. It's all being taken into the system as one step. Now this benefits us because it tries to essentially make it an easier process to do your warehouse activities. As you can see here, we can assign it to users, and within these other examples, you can see how it can be from different actual sources. So while we're taking it from sales orders, it can actually work through transfer orders. Now this gives you the same functionality so that you can move across. Say instead of happening just between you and a customer or a supplier, you can move within your multiple locations. Now locations can be, of course, in the same state, country. As you can see here, we're currently in Sydney. But it can also work in different actual countries as well. Now Rocco, what is the benefit of a warehouse pick in that regard?
Yeah, so again, we're seeing a document that is tailored for a warehouse worker, and it's similar to the inventory pick. Their financial information is removed, pricing and costing information are removed, and the warehouse worker is given just the tools that they need to do their work. So again, they're given all the information about the bins and where the inventory is held and where to take it to. And I guess in this scenario, we're now looking at a one-to-many relationship, as Chris has already mentioned, where instead of just picking for one sales order or for one manufacturing production order, we can combine them into multiple sources into one document to save the worker from basically going backwards and forwards to get the same item for different scenarios. Now, this document will support a warehouse worker who wants to pick and box at the same time, or those processes can be split into two with these taken place lines. So the warehouse worker is given the information they need to after the picking process of running through the warehouse in a warehouse worm style. After that has been done, they can also separate into different boxes for the different types of documents that they are fulfilling. So the sales orders, for the transfer orders, for different customer sales, and also potentially internal movements or internal production.
Very good. So it gives us that extra power within our warehousing activities. Now, it also allows us to then create picking list documents sent out. That allows us to set in the, as you can see here, break filters, sum up lines, and even show the serial and lot numbers attached to our inventory. Of course, we can take a preview of this document, as well as being able to print it out as a PDF, Word, or Excel document, giving you that universal aspect to how you're going to send it out. Now, of course, this works on the other side of the fence again. So this is happening for our warehouse picks now. Exact same functionality and power is enabled to us through our putaways. And later on, we'll even show you a little bit more in that regard, how you can have an extra level of detail if you're importing your goods from overseas through what we call the import costing module. So what we've been able to see through those few activities already is the speed and clarity when processing documents such as an inventory pick, as well as the power of a warehouse pick, including multiple source documents such as sales, transfer orders, and production and assembly documents. What else can we do in warehousing? So we're back into the program now. Let's have a look at what we call the Pic Worksheet. Now this allows us to get multiple warehouse documents, as you can see here, and process them straight away. Let's do that now. So I've got myself two loaded up here already. With the create pick function, I can choose to source these documents per zone, per warehouse, per customer and vendor, per item, per bin, and per due date. So we can apply powerful functionality in that regard. So Rocco, how does this function, the warehouse pick worksheet, benefit us, and why would a warehouse worker use a function like this?
Yeah, so this is giving you the flexibility to decide how to optimize your warehouse operations. So for instance, you may want to create a pick to get all the goods that you need from the pick face, and you may do that as a priority in order to get your picking documents out. You may segregate your picks from the bulk area so that you're only going to the bulk area, infrequently or as you need to replenish your pick face. Alternatively, you can decide to create a pick for a number of aisles, so aisles A, B, and C, or you can use zones, as Chris has already mentioned. And then you can also decide to limit the amount of lines that are created on one pick. So you may want to limit it to 20 pick lines, so that you don't overwhelm any one warehouse worker with the length of their pick based on your criteria. So it's giving you the ability to decide how to create those picks and how to optimize your picking process and save time in the warehouse and increase your warehouse efficiency.
Very good. So we can of course apply this to the other side, the putaways. So what have we really seen here? We've been able to see the functionality of our activities, the picks, putaways, and even movements. So let's hop into the movement worksheet now. And what we'll be able to see through this is being able to apply multiple tasks based on our bin ranking. So What is bin ranking and the bin functionality in that regard? It's made for replenishment. So bins can have applied ranks on their contents, therefore allowing Financials for Office 365 to suggest picks of where you're going to grab them first. Now this is for if you have high movement with specific items within your warehouse more than others. Naturally that is the case in I think every warehouse. Bin replenishment is then streamlined through running a batch job, as you can see here. What we're seeing right now in this movement worksheet is a variety of different actual zones being utilized and inventory being taken from those and placed in another. It's essentially illustrating our workload straight away. We've got multiple quantities of items also being grabbed from different locations and being placed into what we call the picking zone. So we've got that high level of movement being utilized here. Now, just as before, you can have the same sort of functionality, setting it at a break bulk standard and assigning it to a specific user, these warehouse documents. Now it is important to note, as you can see here, that every single time you have a question in regards to what you're doing, Financials tries to help you and enable you to know the most functionality you can get through that page. So what we do for that is allow you to use what we have here, the help page. If you're like me, I don't know everything, so I got to try and hop in here and find out additional information about what I'm looking at. As you can actually see now, it's even incorporating the first expired, first out aspect method. So, Rocco, for our viewers today that aren't familiar with the FEFO aspect, what is that method?
Yeah, so you can choose if you are running batches with expiry dates. You can choose to allow the system to pick those batches which are expiring first. So basically, the program will direct you towards the bin which has the batch which is expiring. So if there are any people there using or selling products or using products in a manufacturing environment or any other type of scenario that have expiry dates, this system will tell the warehouse worker where to go. And just in general on the replenishment aspect, the methods there for replenishing are based on you can have, say, a fixed quantity. So if you imagine your pick face has a number of bins, and you have dedicated bins for each item in the pick workface, and then you might have a maximum quantity, so you can replenish up to that maximum quantity. Alternatively, as Chris has already mentioned, you can use weight or cubic volume.
Very good. So what we're seeing here is the functionality to have that high level of detail incorporated into how we do our bin replenishments. So we can have it based off volumes, we can have it based off the size, and even incorporate multiple units of measure into that aspect. Having them as pieces, boxes, pallets, any way you want to account for them in the system. So while we have this extra layer of functionality, we try and make it so that it's easy as pie creating it. So as you can see here, all I'm doing right now is deciding that I don't want to do these. Let's just delete every single one of these lines and make it that I want to recreate them. Now all that detail that we had there seemed very comprehensive, and entering that information would be a nightmare. All you have to do, because we're going to do exactly what Rocco said there, base it off the information already in the system. It's just calculate bin replenishment and allow for break bulk. Straight away, they're all recreated. Right there, we've got all the tasks that we need to do today being illustrated on our worksheet. So we've now gone through picks as inventory documents, as warehouse documents, and bin replenishment. What else can we look at in that regard then that empowers our business and tries to allow us to have extra functionality? So if you're operating overseas, we do this through what we call the import costing module. Now, using the universal search function, I want to have a look at it. Landed cost receipt. All I have to do is type it in, if I can spell, and straight away it gives me the suggestion. It is important to know that universal search function is on every page. You might have noticed it during this demonstration. So here I've got an empty landed cost receipt. All it is just illustrating the location I'm taking and sending these items to, and we want to try and incorporate multiple different levels of information. So as you can see here, we can incorporate the shipment details of your landed cost receipt, the container number, name, vessel name, as well as the shipping agent that's doing it, even the arrival date and the expected receipt date. Now, what usually hurts people in this regard is being able to enter this information easily. It does look a bit complicated, doesn't it? All we have to do for that is actions and get source document. I want to grab the ones from the 22nd of the 1st. Just grab those multiple documents and the 25th. Now, straight away, we're seeing what Rocco was talking about there. Because we have a suggestion of the weight to be applied, and that we've set a capacity, it's alerting me straight away that I'm exceeding it. But since this is a demo, let's just click yes. Quite a bit of weight. Straight away, in the lines table, we can see all these source documents and the items within them. So we're pulling together those multiple source documents again and just illustrating straight away the quantities and the due dates of these documents. So what is the biggest difficulty when it comes to import costing? For one, there's two different aspects. How it's being transported, we tackle that with the status field. Also, changes. Change management is always hard to deal with. Essentially, if a vessel that's coming in 6 months later shows up late. So how are we going to change all that information? As you can see here, we've got multiple purchase orders. We want to be able to update them straight away. So what we use is the update expected receipt function. Straight away, it's telling us now, based off my expected receipt date that I had different to every single one, we've updated every single purchase order now. So Rocco, a landed cost receipt allows us to change the purchase order's expected date. Why would someone want to do that?
Well, this is because that everything is integrated within financials. So updating the expected receipt date on a purchase order makes that information visible throughout the inventory module, throughout the sales module, throughout manufacturing, and throughout the rest of the warehousing module. So if a salesperson is looking at these particular products and they are giving information to the customer about when these products could be expected, then having this information tracked and updated regularly is extremely valuable. This also feeds into our purchase planning. So if we want to have, safety stock or minimum stock levels of an inventory item at different points in time, then we can project out these dates so that we know when we need to purchase more. So we may know that we have a sales amount that we can expect every month or every quarter, and we may have a lead time of these products for 2 or 3 months. So we know that we may need to start ordering more based on the dates that are being updated here. So tracking the container, or be it sea or via air, is invaluable. And we can combine multiple purchases from one supplier or from many suppliers if that is a process that is required. And we can track it all very quickly. We tell people to create one of these documents when they receive their bill of lading or advanced shipping notice or manifest documentation, and to track it all the way through. And it gives visibility to every other area of the system for sales and inventory management and procurement and manufacturing and service, etc.
What you can also see here is that it's also enabling us to have multiple functions occurring right from the landed cost receipt. So we're trying to increase the functionality that a user has, making that ease of use of how you navigate through the system. As you can see here, we can post this landed cost receipt. Of course, post and print it. But we can also post and print the put away document as well. It even tells us the quantities based off what we're getting. So as you might see here, I've got myself a variety of items arriving at my warehouse. And one of them, the loudspeakers that are Cherry for 75 watts, is actually coming as a pallet, but it also tells us straight away the quantity per unit of measure. So one pallet has 16 pieces in it, allowing you to have that multiple units of measure accounted for within your warehouse functionality. It's always important to note that we've got it by volume, we've got it by pieces, we've got it by pallet, boxes. Any way you want to incorporate for an item, it can be accounted for that way in our warehouse module. So within here, we also have the aspect of creating crossdocks. Now, what is a crossdock? A crossdock, from my understanding, is essentially being able to make it that you promise straight away. So what we have here is a whole bunch of items showing up at our warehouse, say. And we want to be able to sell them straight away, have efficiency in our warehouse. So a crossdock allows us to skip the stages you might even set within your warehouse, and then place it so it's ready to be sold straight away. Is that correct, Rocco?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's stopping. I guess it's interrupting the pattern of receiving the goods and putting them away onto a shelf, and then creating a pick and going and getting them again. So in a system where a lot of products are moving around, this is invaluable to save time and cut down on those wasted processes of putting away and then picking again. So we allocate directly to the sales orders or manufacturing orders or any kind of other demand-driven process so that we can allocate that stock right away.
As you might have seen in a couple of our actual orders, we can even go for simpler processes when accounting for the landed cost. You could just have it as an item charge. It accounts for the expenses and the freight or duty, any one you want to incorporate. So now we've seen the receiving side of our warehouse management system. Had a look at the picks putaways and the ease of use in that aspect through the warehouse documents as well as the landed cost documents. What is, though, the other aspect that really comes into play here? And I guess that would be the actual cycle counting. So for that aspect, I'm going to now take us out of the web experience, up into our tablet client. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually demonstrating on a Windows Surface. And I'm going to navigate through the system by using screen touch, the same way one of your warehouse workers would. So what we always try and aim to do is make the process of a stock take as simple but as detailed as possible. End of the day, when you're doing a cycle count, you need it to be accurate, but you need the entry of that information to be easy. As you can see here, I still have all the information that I had within the web client, but it's just nicely laid out so that it's clear and illustrative. What I'm going to do now is hop into the physical inventory journal and allow myself to create that stock take, and I just have to refresh my page. So I'm now in the warehouse physical inventory journal, and it's giving me the illustration of information that we want to have. As you can see, it'll illustrate my item, the warehouse document, as well as the bins that I'm looking at, so I know where to move to. And what we've got there is what we call the quantities. You have the calculated quantity, as well as the physical quantity. So let's have a look when we actually create this. All I have to do is click the ellipsis button, calculate inventory, and it gives me options of what I'm going to bring up. So this just allows us to do cycle counting. So I can set that it's coming from a specific zone, bin, variant, any aspect. And still by clicking on the screen, I can choose the specifics of where in my warehouse I'm going to do this actual stock take. So Rocco, the cycle counting, does this allow us to do what we want? What's the benefit here?
Yeah, so we can create a stock take journal for a zone or a range of bins, a number of aisles, etc., as you've already mentioned, or a particular item, etc. But we also have the ability to be able to do cycle counting, which is really based on characteristics of the individual inventory items. So We may have the inventory items classified as high value or low value, and we may want to count the high value items more frequently than the low value items. And we can do that instead of picking a zone or a range of bins. We can say we want to pick the items and tell me where they are meant to be so we can count them. Or alternatively, you may have your items classified as fast moving, slow moving, or medium moving, and you may count the fast moving items every month and the medium ones every quarter and the slow moving every 6 months. So basically, no matter how you want to actually perform a stock take, Financials for Office 365 has the ability to allow you to achieve that.
So as you can see here, we can choose it from every single aspect that Rocco said. Bin, variant, zone, area in our warehouse, even just the type of item that we're grabbing by its unit of measure and its warehouse class code. For the demonstration today, let's just calculate everything, because that must take longer, right? Just by selecting the tick box, what it does, instantly calculate the registered amounts within my system. So straight away, I'm actually seeing everything I need to see. Now, it's important to note here that you can take it on two different aspects. You could have your warehouse worker essentially walking through your warehouse with this iPad or Surface or Android device and entering in the actual amounts very easily. As you can see now, I'm just saying that there's the correct amounts, and straight away it tells me the quantity change. Now look at that. For our second item, I put down that there's only 4 actually here, and it's telling me straight away that that's less, and it's creating that adjustment instantaneously. So this allows us to have that ease of use when it comes to entering information and then translating it to correct information. So what you might be asking is, but I don't want that to just happen. People can change my inventories and it'll just be straight away what they say. I don't want that to be occurring. So how can we apply a sort of level of approval into this aspect? And we can take that on by choosing reason codes. Even in the tablet client, I'm actually personalizing what I'm seeing here by being able to choose the columns. So let's illustrate reason codes into this aspect. And that quickly, it includes it. So the reason codes can be from returns from customers, or these are just the stock standard ones. But you can even create them here and now. So it gives you that ease of use of creating new information and being able to account for as much detail as you like into the system, or as broadly or standardized as you like it. So that's the tablet client. So you can have a tablet client for each one of your users when you get Financials for Office 365. We've seen the landed cost now, receipt, and seen the power of detail that we can get through that, and the simple shipment details you want to grab, as well as that link to the purchase order. So let's talk about how we can take this even further, and that is through an extension of the Dynamics suite. What's Dynamics, you might say? So Dynamics is the product that powers Financials, product range. And through that, for warehouse solutions, we usually suggest Dynamics Anywhere. So Rocco, what is the basic purpose of Dynamics Anywhere, and what's the functionality we get from that software?
Well, Dynamics Anywhere can extend Financials into handheld devices, and they may be, in this situation, we're talking about a warehouse employee requiring an extension onto a mobile device. And we've already touched on the mobile tablet client, such as that would run on a Windows Surface machine or an iPad or an Android device. But those mobile devices are not custom built for a warehouse, and they lack some functionality, specifically a barcode reader. So Dynamics Anywhere allows us to have the same types of information that we've seen already within the picking and putaways and replenishment, but it gives us an interface that allows us to interact with it with a barcode scanner and update our quantities and our bins, etc. with those. Now, Just as Chris had already shown you about our different units of measure, financials holds barcodes for a single unit. It holds it for a carton. It can hold it for a pallet. So you can go through and scan in a carton of a product, and it will identify that as the requisite amount of eaches or pieces that live within that carton. So really, Dynamics Anywhere is extending the functionality of the warehouse into these mobile handheld clients where we can interact with them with barcodes.
It's very good how we can have that extension of our functionality from financials into other programs and allow you to have that sort of universal functionality within your accounting software. So we looked at quite a bit in quite a short amount of time. So we might even say that you've seen the best benefits that we have through our warehouse as functionality and module. So what do you think of that? So let's try and find out. This is the next part that I usually really love, and that's our Q&A section. So what we would want to try and get now is use yourself as a business. What do you think is essentially needed for this aspect, and how we want to get it? So Alvin, do we have any questions in the message board at this point?
Yeah, so there's one. What about custom build warehouse systems like robots, please?
Like which? Robots? Can you clarify that a bit more, Dirk?
Oh well, we have a big section now popping up. Okay, so if we look in the warehouse of the future app, then process any highly automated functions with robots, how is Nav or Financial Office 365 Warehouse prepared for this? Do we have an API which can send information out to subsystems? How do you scan barcodes in and out for automation? Example, easy warehouse management software.
Okay, so the first, in reference to the first question about automation or integration with another warehousing system, yeah, that is completely available. So you can integrate with any of the current warehousing systems that may be on the market, or any of them that are available there with the robot. So basically what would happen is that the same documents would be created in financials, such as a Pic, and then a representation of that Pic would be sent to the warehousing system, such as in an XML file or a CSV file. And then obviously the update of that information from the other system would be returned and updated and then posted within financials. And there's various ways of doing that, whether or not you actually want to hold bins and quantities of bins in financials, or whether you just want to hold the overall quantity. And that just depends on the integration scenario. We've performed a number of integrations with all types of systems. So if there's a particular system that you want to learn more about, feel free to email us at the end of this webinar.
Very good. So it looks like that we've got plenty of working examples. We'll be able to send them out to you, Derek. Now, Alvin, do we have any more questions from anyone? Oh, it looks like we're having one written now. Maybe. I don't know. Also, please feel free, attendees, if you'd like to speak, go for it. Alex Goodside's asked us a question now.
Barcode scanners. Can you link barcode scanners? I believe we've already done that for another customer, haven't we?
Yeah, so the barcode scanner, so the Dynamics Anywhere software runs on a barcode scanner. So the common sort of handheld devices we're talking about are things like Intermec, Motorola, Symbol, those kind of devices. So that's going completely onto a mobile platform. Alternatively, if you just want to have a keyboard wedge scanner, then you can use that also to scan in barcodes directly into financials to update information. Hopefully that answers that question.
Very good. So we've got that extra level of functionality. It is also important to note that everything you've seen today is what we call standard out-of-the-box functionality. So we get that straight from Financials for Office 365. And it is important to note that it can scale with your business. So you can turn them on at different times when you're accounting for that in your business. Well, that's fine. Well, I hope you've all enjoyed the webinar today, our Lunch and Learn on warehouse management within Financials for Office 365. So, next week we're going to be talking about 2 different actual webinars during the entire week as well. So, on Wednesday, we'll be talking about manufacturing and showing you that power of functionality that we have in our manufacturing module, how it can make efficiencies within your business, become more evident, help you see where you're doing things right, where you're doing things wrong, also give you as much power or simplicity applied to your manufacturing as you'd like. Trying to match your company in that aspect. And that'll be on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We'll send out the invite to everyone. And then, on Friday, we've got another one, another Lunch and Learn. And that'll be on the Office 365 experience, or Financials for Office 365. A lot of words. So we'll hopefully show you the integration that we have, as well as the client that you get when you buy Office 365 and Financials for Office 365. So, I hope you've all enjoyed your day, and look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. Hope you all have a good weekend.